shot by an arrow, vomiting blood, encountering a grizzly bear. The new season of wilderness survival is not only about hunger, but also full of dangers everywhere. In the last episode, the chubby guy sent himself away crying. But Timber had fish and meat, feeling great. The disparity in the world is both cruel and interesting. Let's see what surprises today's contestants will bring us. The first one we welcome is a wish fulfillment male lead, Pete. As we all know, a standard wish fulfillment male lead starts low before rising. Our Pete was also unremarkable at the beginning. Look at this simple little shelter like a nest. According to him, he spent the first night peacefully. Because he just arrived in this unfamiliar primitive environment, Pete felt lost and at a loss. So he slacked off on the first day. On the second day, he first watched a beautiful sunrise. Perhaps this auspicious purple chi from the east enlightened him. He decided to start doing real things. After all, he hadn't even drunk saliva after slacking for a day. After 2 hours, he finally found some water. As a civilized person, Pete naturally wanted to drink boiled water. But how to start a fire became the first difficulty he had to face. Because these dry branches were really too damp. We can't imagine his confusion yesterday. But if he doesn't drink water for 24 hours, he will quickly become severely dehydrated. He doesn't have much time left. But a big shot who can be a wish fulfillment male lead must be calm. Pete nonchalantly decided to walk away for a while. To give the dry branches time for self-reflection. Maybe they will become dry on their own, who knows? Of course, he can't forget the fire stick. Maybe putting it in his pocket can give it the magic of peace. Realistically speaking, at least it won't be lost. He started exploring and discovered bare footprints. Decided to find a safe place to make his base camp. Until he had symptoms of dehydration, the moment to witness a miracle beside that pile of dry branches arrived. Yes, no miracle happened. Pete could only try again and again. Finally, with the help of artificial respiration, he blew a spark alive in one breath. By this time, more than 3 hours had passed since he tried to start a fire in the morning. Finally having water to drink, Pete happily spent the second day. When the sun rose again, he found an ideal shelter for himself. There are many spruces here that can shelter him from the wind and rain. Compared to other places covered with moss. It's rare to see clean soil here. And the soil moisture content is higher. Convenient for fixing wood to build a dome. Yes, Pete plans to build himself a round hut with a dome. He first built the bed, then surrounded it with branches to form a dome covering the bed. This kind of house doesn't require much effort to cut down trees, saving a lot of calories. The shape of the hut was quickly formed. It's really a beautiful, lovely, small and cozy hut. Covering it with a tarp makes it a free and easy world. But no matter how well built the hut is, it can't be eaten as food. Pete, who had only eaten some berries for the past few days, had no choice but to find a way to fish. He began to make fish hooks and lifelike fake bait. And hung 2 treble hooks on the bait. The purpose is to firmly hook any unlucky fish that bumps into it. Having done all this, Pete went to the riverside and cast out the fishing line. While waiting, this knowledgeable librarian couldn't help but enter philosopher mode. And started thinking about his life. He is introverted and doesn't talk much, appearing calm on the surface but with a lot of inner drama. Thinking of his mother, thinking of his son, the lonely environment infinitely amplified this inner restlessness. The abnormality in the water interrupted the philosopher's contemplation. A stupid fish took the bait. It was a whitefish, biting a wooden bait and paying with its life. It's really a compassionate good fish that sacrificed itself for a righteous cause. He not only got delicious protein, but also obtained real fish bait. In order to not let this fish's sacrifice be in vain, Pete specially made a large net. Planning to carry out his fishing business to the end, he buried a fishing net and 3 or 4 fishing lines by the river. In the evening, he went to check his harvest. One fishing line had movement. It was an underage mullet. Looking in the net, there was actually one too. Just then, another fishing line moved. Oh my god, it was a delicious cod. You thought this was already impressive. Pete's fishing lines kept shaking one after another. He caught a full 5 big fish. This is the rhythm of not opening for 3 years and then eating for 3 years. For the sake of sustainable development, Pete decided to make these fish into smoked fish. This way they could be preserved for longer. He found suitable branches and started building a smokehouse, and gathered many leaves and moss, covering it tightly on top, and put a tarp over it. The happy smoked fish production is in full swing, from pale and skinny to dripping with wealth. He only used 2 days. Congratulations to the new generation fish king for his shining debut. Let's look at the military officer brother Isaiah. He is smugly satisfied with his windfall. He picked up a gas can in the woods. From now on, he can realize the freedom of getting up at night. No longer have to worry about encountering grizzly bears when going out to relieve himself. Who is vigilant in times of peace, began to worry about the severe cold in winter. He decided to build himself the warmest shelter. Choosing a flat place, he began to dig the foundation. Because he planned to build solid walls for himself. To ensure absolute warmth. Look at this huge rectangular size. Isaiah seems to be an even crazier hedonist than Kirby. But this digging with an autumn shovel. Why does it look more and more ominous the more you look at it? He carefully selected 4 thick and straight tree trunks to use as the 4 corner supports. But such a big project consumes a huge amount of calories. Isaiah was already dizzy with hunger. Just at this time, Mother Nature, as benevolent as a mother, sent him a little squirrel. The poor little squirrel was hit by an arrow. This seems to be a world where everyone has divine archery skills. The little squirrel ascended to heaven. Isaiah started his meal. He elegantly took out chopsticks. The delicious food made him so happy he was sad. But there was an even bigger surprise waiting for him. The fishing line in front of him moved. Mother Nature sent him a mullet again. This time Isaiah couldn't hold it in. The elegant gentleman instantly turned into a deep well. His rugged laughter was like 18 bends in a mountain road. At the same time, Dusty was weaving his net that was leaking wind everywhere, carefully putting this sparse net into the water and praying to God. He was already so hungry he had no strength and was dizzy. His residence had been moved closer to the river. The intimate contact with the grizzly bear on the first night made him never want to remember it again. In order to get the protein from deer fish faster, Dusty also started fishing with a fishing line. While casting the line, he recalled his glorious achievements back in the day, as if this could boost his confidence. Suddenly there was movement on the water surface. Dusty immediately took out his bow and arrow. He quietly approached the place with movement. It was 2 wild ducks. Aim, shoot, didn't hit. But the precious arrowhead can't be lost. Poor Dusty had no choice but to take off his clothes and go fish it out. The icy river water must have been quite invigorating. It was a real disaster. Dusty, who came back empty-handed like drawing water, could only honestly go back to fishing. Michaela can compete with Dusty. Look at this strange camouflage paired with Michaela's serious expression, and hear her imitate a few duck calls. Could it be that she plans to defeat the ducks with magic? Obviously the little ducks are very smart, getting farther and farther away from her. It seems the ducks here in the Mackenzie River Delta have an IQ that absolutely crushes squirrels and mullet. Michaela, who failed at hunting, could only turn to plants. She dug up burdock roots to make soup. This girl is truly brave. Burdock seems to be a laxative. Isn't she afraid of getting poisoned? But when you're starving, you don't care. The key to drinking is to quench thirst. Another night passed. Dusty impatiently went to the riverside to see if any stupid mullet had swum into his sparse fishing net. This is quite a big fish to achieve a big feat again. No wonder it could get into Dusty's net. In a great mood to finally have meat to eat, he carefully processed the fish and started making soup, simply soul-stirring with one mouthful. It's like this nearly week-long wait was all worth it. Let's look at long-lost Uncle William. He's going to check the perfect trap he set for rabbits. Sure enough, the rabbit had an accident as expected. This fat rabbit is probably worth 3 squirrels. William expertly hid it in a dry tree hollow. This can extend the shelf life. Looks like Uncle has quite a harvest these days. He's even built a secret storage room. The unluckiest Michaela now has a pale face, but she's still very calm, steadily walking to the riverside. Nature finally favored her, giving her an extra-large mullet. After thanking the gods, the devout Michaela began to carefully process the fish. But she suddenly felt nauseous. To avoid contaminating the food, she went to the riverside. Oh my God, she vomited blood. This amount of blood loss might kill her. Could she end up like the chubby guy? After vomiting, Michaela felt much better. Turns out she just threw up the berries she ate this morning. Probably the power of burdock. Thank goodness she's okay. The recovered Michaela continued processing the fish. Her movements meticulous, clean and neat. The white fish meat is especially tempting. She plans to make these into soup. Wish her good luck. Over here, Wild Man Dusty has a different style. He's neatly renovating his hut. Not a single extra movement. Simply cold and professional. In no time, an outdoor workbench was finished. But he suddenly heard movement in the woods. It should be a little squirrel coming to deliver takeout. The arrow hits every time. You can always trust Dusty's accuracy. The childlike Wild Man Dusty showed us a handicraft. The lower half of the squirrel's fur was sewn into a pouch in his hands. It's really a fashionable item, versatile and good to kick. Dusty's relaxed feeling is always so at ease. This is the 4th squirrel he's caught. But for some reason Dusty doesn't go fishing. Could it be that he doesn't like eating fish? Since we mentioned fish, let's be thorough. Let's take another look at the new Fish King Pete. The problem troubling Pete now is not how to catch fish, but how to preserve and protect the food from being stolen by other animals. He chopped tree trunks to make a ladder, probably wanting to put the food up high. But Pete has a big problem. He loves to let his mind wander while working. At this time he thought of his endless work these past few days. What's the meaning of all this? In a daze he sought his own hand. This gave him a new train of thought. The direction of his wandering mind turned to his child at home. Feeling that if he was at home now, seeing him bleeding, his big son would definitely run over to care for him. Thinking of his child, he then thought of his parenting issues. He is introverted and repressed, unwilling to express his emotions. He is also strict with his children. This seems to have suppressed the children's nature. just letting his mind wander like this, incoherently talking to himself in front of the camera. Then he went to the river to check today's catch. No fish in the net. Nothing on the first fishing line. Nothing at all. Could it be that all his good luck was used up in one day? The already gloomy Pete became even more depressed. He decided to return to his lovely little tent to quietly think. But whether he'll quietly think or not, we don't know. However, the 4 fish he smoked. Everyone wants to have a taste. When will the Fish King's luck return? We wait and see.